I trust um, it's been a week filled with lots of interesting things happening, right? Yes, we are. I would say we are back once more. Yes, to share with you this interesting session. Um, I would like to apologize for starting the session quite a bit late, but sure, we are still having the session for today. All right. So, with me on this particular session, it's one of our awesome members of the community who has also been contributing several times, and he's going to be talking on an interesting topic. But of course, before we start, I would like to say, in case you haven't joined our sessions or probably you haven't subscribed to our channels, I would love for you to go ahead and do so. At this point in time, um, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. His name is none other than Damilola Afolabi. He is a result-driven software engineer with a passion for building scalable user-centric applications, right? Funny enough, he's had over 15 years experience trying to, tackle and solve complex challenges around software development. And funny enough, he has quite a number of experience with mention them the whole full stack development experience, right? So Damilola Afolabi is going to be taking us on this interesting journey for today called using Pacu, an open source AWS exploitation framework for offensive security testing, right? Like I informed you, Damilola has been in this game for a while with, I would say, about 15 years of experience, and he's here to share that experience with us. Um, Before he comes on stage, I would like you to comment on the session and tell us, where are you joining from? Are you joining from Lagos, from where, Nigeria, US, Mexico? Just let us know. We would love to know where you are joining in from. Also, I'd like to use the opportunity to also introduce myself. My name is Promise Uche Unwachku, an AWS community builder and also a leader in the AWS Cloud Security User Group. And of course, we are here to bring you interesting sessions. So join me as I welcome Damilola Afolabi to the stage. Hello, Dami. How are you doing today? Hi, Dami. You seem to be on mute. Your audio. Yeah, I'm not able to hear your
Okay.
audio. Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
good.
Great. Great.
I can hear you
You
now.
back on this?
Yes.
Great.
Also, how are you doing today, Dami?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm
Also,
great.
this is one interesting topic I've been looking forward to. I'm also here with my phone to take some jottings from your session and generally just to listen and learn something from you today. Right. So, are we ready? Are we
Yeah.
good to go?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, then. I'm going to hand over the stage to you and you can kick off from there. Thank
Great.
you very much, Afolabi.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
All right. So, hello everyone. My name is Damilola Afolabi. Uh, First, I want to welcome you to this session. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to the AWS community for giving me the opportunity to be here. Okay. Again, my name is Damilola Afolabi. I am a senior software engineer at Boiler International with close to 2 decades of building full stack software applications. Uh, Alongside that, I've had the opportunity to architect complex AWS environments for startups and thriving businesses. Okay, so today's topic, which is using Pacu, an open source AWS exploitation framework for offensive security topic. Wait, before we even dive into that, so imagine for a moment that you've built a powerful, sophisticated fortress in the cloud, to house your company's most valuable assets, its data. Uh, So you've used the best materials, the best architects, and you feel very, very secure. But what if there is a small unlocked side door, you didn't know about, a door a thief can, quietly slip through. Uh, so today we are going to learn how to find those doors, and we'll be exploring the topic, which is using Pacu, which is an open source AWS exploitation framework for offensive security testing. So we're going to put on our ethical hacker hats to understand how attackers think through the process, you know, so that we can build stronger and more resilient fortresses or environments in the cloud. So the diagram on the screen looks pretty complex, right? That's quite intentional. It presents the intricate web of services and connections within a typical AWS environment. You know, in a production environment for a mid to large size organization, workloads and resources can span the hundreds to the thousands. Yeah. So that sheer complexity is one of the biggest security challenges we face in the cloud. Now, what we would think is that what a normie or an average person would think is that an attacker would just go through the front door. And what's the front door? Maybe your AWS username and password. Just try to access your account and whatnot. That's the front door. But an attacker or a pen tester, which is the professional names for hackers, they don't usually break through the main gate. They look for the simple mistakes that unlock doors. So we call these common misconfigurations. Okay. And this could be like it could range from, say, a simple IAM policy that's far too generous, like giving a junior developer admin rights. You know, it could be an S3 bucket full of customer data that's accidentally set to public. You know? Or it could even be credentials like secret keys accidentally left in public accessible code, maybe in your GitHub repository. You know, a developer builds an application for your organization, and in attempt to roll it out or beat deadline, they just git dash ahem, and just git hard dot or git hard everything, you know, including those secrets to the repository, and just push. So they are these aren't sophisticated zero-day attacks. They are not sophisticated zero-day exploit. And to break that down, zero-day exploits are exploits that happen before they are made known. Okay, so think about it like uh, the door to your apartment is unlocked. Okay, now a thief finds out that that door is unlocked. Rather than the thief telling you that, hey, your door is unlocked, you should lock it, the thief first goes in to check what valuables you have, perhaps take a few things, then comes back, closes the door, and tells you that the door is unlocked. In the technical space or in the technology space, an example would be, say, there is a flaw in your security architecture. An attacker first goes in, probes that security flaw, exploits it, then notifies you that, hey, so the day before you find out about it is the 0 day, and that's what I meant by a 0 day exploit. So these aren't necessarily all these things that I've mentioned, like IAM policies, S3 buckets being set to public, or giving a junior developer admin rights. These are not sophisticated zero-day exploits. They are simple common errors, and they can be catastrophic. Uh, the average cost of data breach in the cloud is over $4 million, with these very misconfigurations being the leading cause. And this is why offensive security is so critical. We need to find these vulnerabilities, close them before malicious actors find them for us. So, if I had to re-explain that, it would be that, okay, you have um, an apartment that you like to keep secure. So you, when you lock your door and you move away from the door, that one other check you do, I know I'm guilty of this. Whenever I lock my door and I step away from it, I kind of come back and like check if it is locked. That's pretty much a simple example of testing. That's a simple example of penetration testing, in action. So we need to test uh, this security to be sure that we are not leaving vulnerabilities open for malicious actors. So how do we find these unlocked doors? Uh, that brings us to our main topic today, which is Pacu. So what's Pacu in simple terms? It's an open source AWS exploitation framework designed for offensive security, testing against cloud environments. So let me unpack that a bit. Open source, it's been built. Okay, let's first let's back up a bit. It's an AWS exploitation framework, meaning that it's a framework of different tools. Okay, one tool here, one tool there, multiple scripts packaged together into a whole. Okay, and then the source code is available online, making it open source. So you can think about it like your Swiss Army knife, specifically for testing the security uh, of your AWS setup. So multiple knives chained together, each individual exploitation tool chained together into a framework and provided openly, made the source code made available for everyone to tweak and modify and update and use uh, depending on their specific use case. It's built by a company called Rhino Security Labs, and they built it by taking all the knowledge and tools that they developed during real-world penetration tests and uh, the red team engagement on AWS. A little background on teams when it comes to cybersecurity. There are two teams, at least that I know of. There's the red team, they focus on attack. There's the blue team, they focus on defense. So in a security company, these two teams play against each other to further strengthen the security posture of an environment that they are being charged to secure. Okay, so think about it like you duplicating yourself into two places, or maybe you and a sibling. Uh, you are trying to enter into the apartment with the unlocked door, while your sibling is trying to make sure that the apartment is uh, locked. So you two are thinking in different variations, different varieties. Okay, how do I get into this? One sibling is thinking, how do I get into this apartment successfully? Would I say outsmarting my sibling, while the other sibling is thinking, okay, how do I actually defend against? How do I make sure that all doors are locked so that the sibling doesn't get into this apartment? And although these two people are playing different sides, at the end of the game, they come back to share, okay, what they found out. If sibling one finds a way to get into the apartment, maybe through the window, it tells sibling B and sibling B, okay, it looks like this window is the vulnerability or window is the unlocked vulnerability that they can exploit. Okay, let's add in this security by blocking this. So the red team is offensive, the blue team is a defense team. So, and its entire process, that is Pacu, is to help security professionals like us identify more important more importantly, uh, demonstrate the impact of these misconfiguration flaws as we just discussed. Now, looking at the code on the slide, you can see that it's pretty straightforward. To get started, you just need to install Pacu using a Python module called pip. Pacu is a Python module. To set it up, first you need to have Python installed on your machine, whatever machine you are using to test the penetration. Again, I try to demystify this by breaking down the words into syllables. Penetration testing, you are testing access. Penetration, you're trying to penetrate an environment. So penetration testing. So first you install Python. After installing Python, you use pip to install Pacu using pip3 install -u, which is the user, then Pacu. Then once you install that, you could just run Pacu and then use the quick commands help lists or run module name. So the help command, it helps to see all the commands lists, to see all the different testing modules available, and run followed by the module name is used to execute a specific test, a specific penetration test. So what makes Pacu so effective? Why are we using Pacu today? Why are we discussing Pacu today? Why is it that most companies or most security professionals, or even a company like Rhino, has dedicated time to actually develop this tool? First, it's modular architecture. Okay, so Pacu is built like a set of Legos, Lego bricks. Each module is a tool that performs a specific task. So one might search for public, one module might search for public S3 bucket. Another might try to escalate the privileges. So this plugin design means it's incredibly flexible and constantly being updated with new modules by the security community. Another key feature of Pacu is the session management. So I have a friend who is a penetration tester for multiple clients. Before tools like this, it had nightmares about mixing up client keys and data. Even alternatively, if you had to do another tool used in penetration testing is Metasploit. Most of you might have heard of it. Metasploit is another framework, but it's written in Ruby. It's what I say somewhat a little bit more complex to write, and you would often use that before Pacu. So when I start using Pacu, Pacu solves this nightmare of mixing up client keys and data. So by keeping every session separate, so you can test different AWS environments at the same time, and Pacu ensures all the keys and data it collects are neatly organized and isolated. Another feature is data persistence. So Pacu is smart, based on how it's built. When it discovers information like list of users or S3 buckets, it saves the data in a local database. So this is brilliant because it minimizes the number of API calls it has to make to AWS, which means less noise for security monitoring tools to potentially pick up the activity. And finally, for professionals who need to write reports, so it has a command logging feature. So Pacu records every command you run, allowing you to create a perfect timeline of testing activities for auditing and reporting. So the core strength again about Pacu is the modularity. It is also extensible. So I gave a brief about this earlier, which is how to install and set up Pacu. So to install Pacu, getting started with it is pretty simple. All you need is install Python 3.7 or higher. So that is, you go to the Python Foundation website. I believe it's python.org or pythonfoundation.org. And once installed, you install Pacu using pip3 install-u pip -u Pacu, which installs Pacu for the current user. If you use it without the -u flag, it installs it generally on the machine. Also, if you're a fan of Dockerization or containerization, you can run the official Docker image, which can be much more easier than running or installing Python on the machine. For example, if you were most security professionals don't test, they don't pen test on their personal machines. They probably spin up a VM or they probably spin up a remote VM and then set up their tools on that VM, or they already have a VM set up that has all those tools installed and then they use that for pen testing. If that is your case, if that is your scenario, you could spin up a VM, then use the Docker image. If setting up Python on maybe an Amazon Linux machine or maybe a CentOS or Ubuntu machine is difficult to work through, you just set up Docker and then use the Docker image. So once you launch Pacu, your first step is to create a new session and set your AWS keys using the set keys command. So as you can see in the code snippet on the screen in the AWS credential setup area, it'll ask you for a friendly name for the keys. Then you can add the access key ID and the secret key. You get this from the IAM section of your AWS account by creating a credential, a CLI credential. And now this is the critical step that gives Pacu the authorization to interact with the target AWS account on your behalf. So this chart here gives you a visual breakdown of Pacu's capabilities. As you can see, the largest category of module is reconnaissance. This is always the first phase of any attack, gathering information. Modules like IAM underscore enum underscore users help you figure out who has access to the account. The biggest category is escalation, privilege escalation. So reconnaissance, in simple words, it means research. Okay, research. I don't know if you're a fan of CIA movies or spy movies like I am. Reconnaissance is you have a target. First, you're supposed to go and find out about the target. That is spying on the target, trying to find out what their moves is, what the landscape is, what security architecture they have, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what reconnaissance means. Now, escalation, privilege escalation. So you found out what the architecture is. Now you try to increase or escalate your privilege, from maybe a normal user to an admin. So this is where things get actually interesting. Once an attacker has a foothold in your environment, they'll try to get more power. So a module like IAM PriviSec, I believe it's had IAM privilege. Yeah. So It's designed to automatically exploit misconfigurations to gain higher permissions. Yeah. Then you have data exfiltration or persistence, and this is the goal of most attackers. That is, can I steal your data? You know, so the S3 bucket, S3 download bucket module does exactly what it sounds like. And also persistent modules like lambda backdoor or lambda underscore backdoor can even be scarier. They can create a way for an attacker to get back into your uh, system later on. And the funny thing about the cool thing about lambda is you can create a lambda function and it will just be sitting there. You won't be charged for it until it runs. So you're being billed for each time it runs. Now, for an environment, an AWS organization with thousands of resources, you know, and there's just one lambda function somewhere that's not being used. Nobody will pay attention to it unless, of course, if the security team is constantly monitoring the environment, constantly running audits. Nobody will pay attention to it. But when an attacker gains access, they just create that foothold and the lambda function just runs once. And again, nobody pays attention, but that's giving them access again to the environment, which is what a backdoor is, a way to get back into the system. Now, aside all of this, there are over 40 modules in Pacu, which provides a comprehensive toolkit for simulating a full attack life cycle. So sadly, today I won't be able to do a live demo. I really, really wished I could, but couldn't set up the environment in time for that. But don't worry about that. I did create a GitHub repository with about 5 uh, lab environments that you can create and use to test out uh, Pacu. It also includes creating a sandbox account because this two things. First off, whenever you're trying to test an account, you need to get authorization from the account owner or the organization owner. They need to give you authorization to be able to test, to be able to run pen tests against the account. Secondly, is you don't when you're trying out Pacu, it's recommended that you don't do it against a live or production account. You have to set up a sandbox environment, you know, for that. Unless of course you are a professional and you actually know what you're doing, or an organization has actually consulted you to do this. So now the GitHub repository I'm going to share later will includes all of this information, which is scripts to set up the sandbox environment on your AWS account. Whether you're using a Windows, Mac, or Linux, as well as CloudFormation templates for each individual labs. Okay. So, a quick explanation of this sample screen that you're looking at. Let's walk through a story that is a simulated attack scenario. So let's pretend that we are an attacker and we just acquired a low privilege AWS access key, maybe from a GitHub public repository. A developer somewhere has been pressured to roll out an application, and because of time, it just created a public repository. Git added everything in his directory path to his Git repository and just pushed. Now we've scanned through and we've been able to gain access to this access key. Now let's see what we can do with it. Step one is initial reconnaissance. The first thing we do is we run a module to get the lay of the land. Like I said, like in spy movies, before any operation or any military operation goes into play. They first run reconnaissance. They send the spy in to check what what the security architecture is, what the lay of the land is. So we're in a dark room and we need to find the light switch. The terminal output shows, I'm not sure if you can see this clearly. Hope you can zoom in on your screen to be able to. So the terminal output shows us running a module that enumerates the accounts, telling us the account ID and what regions are in use in this account. Step 2, we identify S3 buckets. So now that we have a basic map of the account and what regions are in use, we want to hunt for treasures. So the S3 buckets are a common place for sensitive data. So we run our S3 inner module to list all the buckets in the account. If you know AWS very well, you know S3 is a very, very good object store, very, very cheap for short time and long time storage. Okay, and most companies, mostly healthcare, have policies, data retention policies. Like for example, some industries have, like healthcare, have a requirement to store patient data for a minimum of maybe 3 or 7 years before they lose it. So that might be in an archive tier storage. So imagine an attacker gets access to this account and lists all the buckets, and one of the buckets is that storage. Okay. So using S3 inner module, we can list all the buckets in the account, and if you look at the output, you see that the output actually screams at us. So you see Queenstone lab data bucket has a public read access. So we've just found out our unlocked door, like I explained in our example earlier. Now that we've found out what door is unlocked, we try to escalate our privilege, which is step 3, privilege escalation, which will go straight to the data, but a savvy attacker will try to gain more powerful access first. So rather than just going to snatch data you've seen, you first see, can I actually get more power to get more data? So we would use a module to identify if our current low privilege user can exploit any IAM misconfiguration to get higher permissions, maybe even admin access. Step 3, data exfiltration. So once again, like I said, when you see, okay, this is the unlocked door, okay, I can actually access this apartment. So do I go in and pick a valuable, or do I create a spare key so that I can come in later? Or do I just stay somewhere, hide somewhere in the apartment till when it's dark so that I can easily I can do more? So now when I'm done with that, I get my goods and move. So getting the goods, that's data exfiltration, which is the finale. We use the S3 bucket, S3 download bucket, S3 underscore download bucket module. And you point it directly to the public bucket we found. The terminal shows Pacu downloading all the files from buckets to our local machine. Remember that healthcare organization I used as an example. Imagine they had, by some mistake, they had patient data stored in a bucket, and the bucket was set to public. And with Pacu, an attacker could you could just test, and then you're easily able to download those files. And just like that, in a matter of minutes, a simple misconfiguration has led to a major data breach. Yeah. And then the next day you're seeing news, there's been data breach in XYZ place, millions of data were lost, this, that. A disclaimer though that this here is for educational purposes only. Yes, I've made savvy and sweet examples of real world scenarios, but this is just an educational demonstration uh, for you. So again, you must almost get proper authorization before performing any kind of security test. So what we just discussed is the offensive. Uh, what we just discussed is an offensive measure. Like I said, red team trying to attack or testing an attack. Now let's discuss the blue team, which is a defensive measure. So before we continue, I'd like to change my hat. First, I was wearing an attacker's, a black attacker's, or a black hat attacker's hat. I'm going to take that off and wear my blue defender hat. So a major vulnerability just happened, and that was scary. As a miracle, we're able to, the legal team was able to uh, try to spin the narrative, try to block all lawsuits and whatnot. CTU or CISO is back on the in the office, raining down on us and trying to get us to block the attacks. So how do we stop it? It starts with AWS security best practices. First, implement the principle of least privilege. You know, this goes without saying. It's the hallmark, one of the core pillars of security. Don't give access that's not required. You know, don't give anyone or any service more permission than it absolutely needs. Secondly, use multi-factor authentication, uh, MFA, for all users, and use tools like AWS AWS organizations to enforce security policies centrally. In the lab repository I'm going to share, part of the setup is it sets up a sandbox environment in your AWS account, which separates from your AWS workloads. So next, monitoring and detection. You can't stop what you can't see. So you enable CloudTrail across all regions to get a log of every single API calls made in your AWS account. You use guard duty. It's like a smart security camera that uses machine learning to detect suspicious API calls and potential threats. And you set up alerts for high risk events like changes in IAM policies. Yeah. So say a Lambda function just automatically sets changes an API policy and gives a user admin privileges. Yeah. Alerts picks that up and just notifies you. Finally, there are also specific Pacu countermeasures. You know, you can monitor for unusual API call patterns, especially from IP addresses you don't recognize. Most companies use VPNs to ensure that whatever access comes into their AWS environment is legitimate. Okay, that's one way to curb external access. And most importantly, use S3 bucket policies to ensure that they are never unintentionally made public. The best defense is a proactive one. Using tools like Pacu by yourself, you can test environments, particularly again in a controlled manner, like I mentioned. Unless you know what you're doing, you don't want to run tools like this in a production environment. And also, you need authorization, maybe from your CISO or your CEO or your CTO, before you can uh, run these tests on your organization's AWS environment. Using tools like Pacu, you can find this vulnerability before anyone does. Which brings me to ethical considerations. So this might be the most important slide in this presentation. So a tool like Pacu gives you significant power, significant amount of power. As the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. I believe that came from Spider-Man 3. Is it 3 or 2? I'm not sure. So, so there are hard and fast rules here. First, legal and ethical boundaries. The only test environment you either own the test environment, or you have explicit written permissions to test. And like I said, when you ask your CTO or CISO, it's not just a verbal. Before a pen tester can assess an environment or test an environment, they need written consent. Like it's a regulation, natural regulation. So that's written permission to do that. And that's fine now. Written permission, unless you're testing in your own personal test environment. So this should be documented in formal penetration testing agreement. So you must have, again, proper authorization, and this means written approval from your stakeholders and agreeing on when you'll be testing to avoid disruption in production environment. You also need to be aware of the AWS penetration testing policies. AWS is quite open and actually allows customers to conduct security assessments against their infrastructure for many key services like EC2, RDS, without giving prior approval to from AWS themselves. However, you should always read and double check the latest policy to know the exact rules of engagement. And finally, responsible disclosure. If you find a vulnerability, say you've through this class, through this session, and the labs you run, you've been able to get with your CISO, get written authorization, run the test, find out breaches and vulnerability. If you find one, you should report it privately to the organization and get them a reasonable amount of time to fix it before you ever consider disclosing it publicly. So again, this tool is designed to improve security, not for malicious exploitation, but for organizations' growth. It's actually standard practice for ethical hackers to notify a company the moment they find out about security vulnerabilities and give them time to solve those vulnerabilities before disclosing it publicly. If you find out news about data leaks, especially from hacker forums and whatnot, most likely what has happened is that they found out about that breach for a period of time. They've written perhaps consistently, repeatedly to the organization, but they've not heard back, or the organization is trying to deny that they have access. It's like you entering somebody's house and calling them that, hey, I'm in your house is unlocked, or I breached your apartment, I recommend you lock this door, and the person is telling you that, hey, that door is not unlocked. And like, I just tested this. So then you finally just disclose it. Finally, the key takeaways. Bringing it all together, first, Pacu is an incredible, comprehensive and modular framework for testing AWS security. Secondly, regular security assessment is not optional. There are quite essential to find and fix common misconfigurations that lead to breaches. The fact that you did a security audit today doesn't mean that come next week weekend your infrastructure is still solid. You know, a developer might have changed something. Sysops engineer might have changed something. A new rollout of a software might have created a security breach in your environment. So you need to regularly assess your environment. Thirdly, get ethical and proper authorizations. You know, they are the bedrock for any professional security testing engagement. One of the core differences between ethical hackers and black hat hackers. Ethical hackers or white hat hackers, hackers that uh, pen test for the success of the company, while black hat hackers are security professionals that exploit organizations for malicious intent. And another difference is that one gets authorization, the other doesn't get authorization, just checks in, gets what they want, move out. And finally, AWS security is a continuous process of monitoring and implementing best practices, least privilege, private buckets, alerts, guard duty, cloud rails to monitor API calls. A tool like Pacu would register on API calls because it uses CLI and that registers on CloudTrail. Finally, if you're interested in learning more, I highly recommend checking out the Pacu GitHub repository. So its wiki has it has a well documented wiki page, and the creators at Rhino Security Labs, they also have excellent security tutorials that walk you through how to use the tool effectively. And finally, I also added, if we look to the right, the last link, which is the lab's GitHub repository, is a link to the lab I created, where I will give you access to. Let me see if I can pull that up. And Pacu Security Labs and GitHub. Okay, good. And here. All right. So here you find a list of labs, 5 labs in total, where you can set up the environment using CloudFormation Stack and then run Pacu to test that environment. So these are vulnerable. This stack creates vulnerable environment for you to test your Pacu skills against. Okay, and then the setup for each individual PC, each individual computer type, whether using Mac, Linux, or Windows, is the sandbox setup files that you find here. There are docs included in the docs folder to explain what each environment entail and what the objectives are and what you can play around with, as well as cleanups to clean up the environment so that you don't keep your environment insecure. So, and that brings me to the end of today's session. Thank you very much for having me. I don't know if Promises backstage. I will now take questions.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. Dami, I don't know if you could share the link to this so that I could share it with
All
the
right.
participants. You can just paste it here. I
Yeah.
have listed like somewhere where you can paste it so I can share it with the participants.
And that
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So I mean,
Also,
this.
one more thing, be sure to hit the star icon to favorite this, because over time I would like to update this with more labs as we go, to give you something to play around with, to beef up or increase your security skills with Pacu.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for this, Daniel. I think it was a very, very interesting session. And like I said, the goal of all of this um, is to give the community, um, I would say, an inkling onto what they can do. What are the possibilities of what can be done to ensure a secured environment in their workplaces? And one of the things most of the time you find out is that sessions like this help to energize community members. They go on to their various workplaces and they're like, oh, I heard something from Dami the other day. I think I would like to give it a try. Right. And before you know it, they keep exploring and getting a better understanding on how all of these services work. So I would like to say thank you so much, Dami, for this awesome, awesome session. And of course, if you do have any question, don't hesitate to ask them here. Dami has also shared a link to the GitHub repo where he has done some steps which you can carry out. I have shared the GitHub repo on the screen, and at your own time, you can go around trying to see how this works. Practice, practice, practice. That is actually what makes you different from every other cloud enthusiast out there. So I would like to say thank you so much, Dami, for this awesome session. We'll be moving over to the quiz. Um, we have very few minutes for that. Um, so if you would like to participate in the quiz, kindly join the link here. We're pasting the link now on the screen. We don't have much time, so I would say kindly join the link here. I have just shared you the the link to the quiz. Yes, so um those of us who would like to join, I'm encouraging every one of you to join. Join, 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 join. Let me share my screen so that you all can see. Yeah, you all can see what is going on. Yeah, we are still waiting for players to join in. Join, 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 join. Join, 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 join. No one. Okay, I see zero players have joined. What's happening, guys? Why you all not joining? Why are you all not joining? Joining, guys. Joining, 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 joining. Is no one willing to play the quiz today? Oh, I see Collins has joined in. Welcome, Collins. Who else is joining? Who else is joining? I see we have about six of us here. So who else is going to join? Prosper, nice, nice. Prosper has done the what he should do. Who else is joining? David. David, you're welcome. There's someone I see commenting on the chat. Oh, John Ido, glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. Who else is going to join the session? Oh, do we have? So we just have four players for today: David Collins, Zomiwu, Prosper Agada, and John Idowu. Wow, such interesting, interesting, interesting. Is any other person joining? All right, okay. Let's proceed to start the session. I guess they can always join while we start. So yes, we are starting. Yeah. So this question rewards. Okay. So now you can see the quiz is started. So we are going. What is the primary purpose of the Pacu framework? Let's see if anyone gets this. What is the primary purpose of the Pacu framework? Let's see who wins this. What is the primary purpose of the Pacu framework? Wow, time is up. Let's show answers and let's see who wins. Oh, to identify and exploit AWS misconfigurations during offensive security testing. Awesome, awesome. I see that three people got this. Nice. All right, okay, okay, okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. Let's see. Okay. All right, we're moving on. Wow. Johnny Doe, that was very fast. Well done. David, well done. I see you're doing excellent work. Collins, you're doing great too. Prosper, you need to pick up the pace. All right, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is not a core feature of Paco? Which of the following is not a core feature of Paco? Wow, everyone has answered. Interesting. Wow. I see the answers were split here, but only two people got the correct answer. Auto remediation of detected threats. Awesome, awesome. Let's see who wins this one. Um, wow. Johnny Doe. David seems to have, toppled John Ido, but Collins is still on the way, and Prosper looks like Prosper is not even playing the game. But anyway, let's see how this goes. Well done, David. You're doing awesomely well. Well done. All right, on to the next one. What is a recommended security practice when using Pacu for testing? What is a recommended security practice when using Pacu for testing? Who knows this one? Let's see if everyone will get this. Oh, interesting. Wow. Use temporary AWS credentials with limited permissions. Awesome. I see all four got this. Nice, nice. Let's see if John remains there. Oh, David keeps rocking this. Nice. All right, David, keep it up, keep it up. John, nice. Prosper, well done. Prosper has even picked up and dominated Collins. Wow. Wow, that's nice. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Which module in Paco is used to enumerate IAM users? Let's see. Which module in Paco? Everyone has answered. Wow. These guys are not smiling. No. These guys are not smiling. Nice. Wow, wow, wow. Everyone seems to have gotten this and right on time. All right. Let's David. Wow, David is not smiling today. Oh. David is not smiling today. Well done, John. Prosper, you're doing awesomely well, and Collins is doing awesomely well. So, David, you have one more chance to prove that you are the defender of the universe. I hope Johnny Dowu doesn't tumble and becomes the winner of this thing. Well, let's see how that goes. All right, let's to the last question. Let's see how that goes then. Wow, according to AWS policy, which service is not part of the aid that can be tested without prior approval? Wow, wow, wow. These guys are not smiling. Only one person got the final one. Huh? Will this be David or will it be John? If it's David or John, then we will probably have like some time. But if it's Prosper or Collins, well, let's see what the final question is at. And who got the final? Let's see. Wow, David. Man, David is not smiling, guys. Damn. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Nice, David. Nice, David. Nice work, nice work, nice work. I'm impressed. I'm impressed, David. You did awesomely well. You did awesomely well. So you have done awesomely well, David. I would encourage the winner to send us a mail at this email address. So you can send us a mail at this email address with your details so that we can confirm and, yeah, of course, proceed to assign you your lovely due packages, right? So awesome work, David. You have done excellently well. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, David has introduced himself. I am David from Kenya. David, good, good. You did well. You did well. Wow, wow. You did well, David. You did well. You did well. You did well. All right, guys. We have come to the session, the end of the session for today. I'd like to say thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dami. I'm bringing Dami upstage to give us his final farewell. Hello, Dami. Final farewells for the session.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much for having me. I would love to come around again, and hopefully then we can do a deep dive. Play around with these tools. Set up labs and play around with a few more labs. Yeah. So it was fun being here. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you guys. Thank you
All
guys.
right. Thank you very much, Dami. Thank you so much, Dami. All right, guys. You've heard from Dami. He's so happy to be on the stage with us today and shared his wonderful knowledge with us. I would like to encourage you, if you have not joined our, our LinkedIn page, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I'd like to encourage you to do so. Also, if you are not following us on Meetup, please, I would love to encourage you to do so. If you're wondering what the Meetup page is for our community, I'm going to be posting that up right now. And I would love you to take some time to also, what would I say, subscribe to our Meetup page, right? I'd love you to take some time to subscribe to our Meetup page. Yeah, I'm pasting that right now. So you can see that's the link to our Meetup page. And also on LinkedIn, you can also reach us on LinkedIn on this link as well. I'm pasting that right now. So I love you to go on the page, follow our pages so that you are up to date with what is happening in the community, right? So you are up to date with what is happening in the community. So yes, here is our LinkedIn page. Ensure you subscribe, ensure you follow, and of course, don't hesitate to send us any message if you need to do that. Don't hesitate to do so because of course we would love to hear from you, right? We would love to hear from you. All right, at this point I would like to say thank you everyone for this awesome session, um and see you next week for the sessions we have upcoming. I am thinking this is the last session, but I'm not totally sure. But anyway, check out our meetup page and you'll be updated with what is the next session we'll be having or what is the next activity we have in line for you all. At this point in time, I'd like to say thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Bye bye, all.